recorded. With that said, I've just added the record button and we are live on YouTube. So again, thank you for making our workshop today on OPWDD and Family Support Services. I'm Christy Angel, the CCD 75 co-president and the outreach chair for our committee. Additionally, we have Christy Montalban, who is here, who is our vice president, and she is also the co-chair for our outreach committee. The highlight that we have, we're pleased to welcome Jackie Tripodi from the New York State Institute on Disability. And she's a treasure trove of information, and she'll be walking us through a lot today. So what we want you to know is this information is available online. And for everyone who has registered, you will receive copies of information and they will be distributed in the chat. Additionally, this meeting does have interpretation. So as we are starting the meeting at 11:05 a.m., I would like to give the floor over to our Spanish interpreters for instructions. Spanish, you may begin, Benito.
Good morning, everyone. The following message will be in Spanish, offering interpretation services. Buenos días a todos, gracias por estar acá. Si desea servicios de interpretación en español, por favor marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el código de conferencia 935-991-662, símbolo numeral. Le repito, para interpretación simultánea en español, por favor marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 935-991-662, símbolo numeral. Por favor, recuerden mantener el micrófono de su teléfono en silencio para garantizar la calidad de sonido de todos los participantes en la línea de interpretación. Esta información será publicada periódicamente en la casilla de diálogos. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mandarin, you may now give your instructions.
欢迎大家来到这边。那如果你需要国语的翻译的话呢，请打电话去347-966-4114，密码是749-459-33，然后按井号。再来一次，电话是347-966-4114，密码是749-459-33，然后按井号。然后按星星，然后6去第一。谢谢。The Mandarin announcement is finished. You may proceed.
Thank you so much. Without further ado, we will give over the floor to Jacqueline Tripodi from New York State Institute for Disability. Thank you again.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I do have a PowerPoint that I'd like to see. I don't know if Chrissy, should share my screen, or if you want to put it up through on your end.
You can share. You're free to share.
All right, so I have to, technology is not my forte, but I can absolutely try and see if.
I do have your, all of the slides that you gave me. Did you give me the PowerPoint as well?
I did. I sent you the PowerPoint this morning.
Hold on one second. I downloaded the slides, but I think I might have missed the actual PowerPoint.
Because I have it up on my screen, but I'm not. Let me see. Is that on there?
Give me 1 second. I was looking at. It says you started screen sharing, but it's not showing as of yet. Oh, there we go. I see it now. Yes.
Okay, so now I just have to figure out how to move it forward. But we will figure it out as we go. One of the beauties of this world is we're constantly learning and educating ourselves on how to do new things. Anyway, I am Jackie Tripodi. I am first and foremost the parent of a young man who has cerebral palsy and multiple disabilities. My son Joseph is 31 years old. He was a student at PS37R, which I'm very, very proud to say is his alum, which was a District 75 school. He's currently living in a residential opportunity where he lives his own life, fulfilling life, and literally kicked me out of his room last week because his twin sister went to visit him and mommy wasn't welcome. So I do have some experience in the world of disabilities, and I'm fortunate enough to have two hats where I am the New York State Institute on Disability. I'm the Associate Program Director, where we provide reimbursement and other family support services. I also happen to wear a hat as a family worker at a District 75 school, PS 37R, where we can try and share information with families as well. So again, thank you so very much for having me today. I'd like to start with what is OPWDD. If you do not know what it is, OPWDD is the entity that provides supports and services to individuals with developmental disabilities throughout their lifetime. It can be from it start as early as birth. Although at birth, birth to 3, most families are getting early intervention services through the city of New York, but OPWDD does have mechanisms in place for that as well to serve individuals. There's ages 3 and up to lifetime. OPWDD provides supports and services in a different way. So today what we're going to focus on are the family support services. So it starts with eligibility. Most employment, okay, I don't know how I can change this.
I think if you press the enter button or the you see at the bottom.
There you go. See, I'm learning. Thank you.
Welcome.
So we're going to start with, this is pretty much the information that I'd like to share with you today. What is, OPW, New York State Office for Developmental Disabilities, OPWDD, you hear a lot of acronyms. You need eligibility to get those services. Unlike the Department of Education, where you have FAPE, which is the Free Appropriate Public Education Entitlement, OPWDD services are based on eligibility. An individual must be deemed eligible to receive these services. So eligibility, how it starts, you have to submit paperwork, you have to submit documentation. Yes, you have a child in District 75, it's been designated that they have a need. However, OPWDD needs to have documentation. They need full reports, they need psychological, psychosocial, they need medicals, they need their IEPs. So it's a process to get OPWDD eligibility. And typically from 3 to 8, an individual may be deemed provisional eligibility. I'll give an example. My daughter, my twins were born prematurely. They were a little more than a pound when they were born, and they suffered from severe developmental delays, both of them. Both of them received services literally from the time they came home from the hospital to 5 years old. All of a sudden, my daughter really started, she caught up. She no longer needed the services from OPWDD by the time she was 6 or 7 years old. So she was no longer eligible after a certain age. So that said, OPWDD from usually 3 is when they start. 3 to 8, most families, individuals are going to receive provisional eligibility. That doesn't mean that's not the exception to the rule. You may have an individual whose needs are I'm trying to be politically correct, but that there may be more significant needs that may get full eligibility. It depends on the individual. It's individual. So up until 8, you might get provisional eligibility. Then at 8, you start to do the process to get full eligibility. In any event, once you get eligibility and you live at home with your family, you're now eligible for OPWDD family support services. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. After 8, you may start to apply for Medicaid waiver services. But from 3 to 8, what's been going on, it's not always for everybody. There are different circumstances. Everybody's case is individual, that an individual doesn't get enrolled in a Medicaid waiver program. The Medicaid waiver programs are respite, community HAB. Those are the types of Medicaid waiver programs that an individual can start. So let's just start with OPWDD eligibility and how do you start? You start with contacting a care coordination organization. These are the 3 that serve Staten Island, Brooklyn, Bronx, all 5 boroughs, Manhattan, Queens. You need to contact one of these care coordination organizations Let them know that you're looking to get eligibility for OPWDD services for your child. They're going to tell you exactly what you need to submit, the documents, the psychological, the psychosocial, the medical, if your child is diagnosed with the autism spectrum, perhaps an ADOS, which is an autistic diagnostic test that needs to be proven. So I just want to start with that. I'm going to catch my breath, and I don't know if you want me to take questions in between, or if anybody has anything that I confuse anybody about up until this point, because my point, I want to try and just make this as simple and stress-free, although we have children with special needs, I don't think there's such a thing, to just share information.
They did ask Jackie if you could check or improve the quality of your microphone for interpretation purposes. Are you able to come closer to the mic or maybe turn it up or something of that nature?
I have no idea how to do that, but I will. Is that any better?
I hear you. Okay. Benito, is it better for you?
A little bit.
Okay.
Let's try.
Okay.
Okay. I'll try. Yeah. I mean, I may just need to be a little closer to it. Sorry.
Okay. We do have one question for you, Jackie. What do you do if your CCO isn't taking new cases?
Okay, you can transfer it to another CCO. So currently, Tri-County Care is on a pause. They're on a pause. OPWDD has indicated that a few months ago. So they cannot take new cases. So you can contact another CCO. ACA, Advanced Care Alliance, they are processing new intakes. I believe Care Design is also processing new intakes. I'm not sure if they have a wait list or not. It's worth it a shot to try calling both of them. You would also, when you talk to them, they're going to tell you about the front door videos that you would do. These are all steps to taking OPWDD eligibility. And as I said, OPWDD eligibility is that you can be eligible, and most importantly, for the family support services. Your individual needs to live at home with a non-paid caregiver. So with a non-paid caregiver, what that means is that if the family member receives CVPAC services and payments, they're not eligible for family support reimbursement. They can access other services, but not the reimbursement. So just so that everybody is clear, CVPAC, if it's a family member who receives that payment, the individual would not be eligible for reimbursement, but they may be eligible for other family support services. So what are family support services? It's here to provide programs and supports to individuals to keep their individuals living at home. This is where this came from, so that we can keep our individuals living at home, not have them going into residential placements or anything like that because of the financial hardship for families to be able to care for their loved ones. You must establish OPWDD eligibility. That's first and foremost. You cannot access anything through OPWDD without that eligibility, whether it be provisional or full eligibility. In all likelihood, families, especially of young children, are receiving right now provisional eligibility. Again, that does not mean that other families cannot get full eligibility if the individual is deemed to have the necessary supports. And that's all in your reports. What I will say, if you're going for evaluations and you are asked a question during the assessments about what your child can and cannot do, what I'd like family members to keep in mind, and this is the best advice I was ever given, and I'm going to share it with you, is that if you have to say yes, but, then it should be no. If it's a yes, but, then it should be no. Because the whole point of the question is that the individual can do something independently. If it's independent, there should be no but. It should be. My son, can Joey put on his leg braces? I could say, well, yeah, but what they hear is yes, yeah. But I have to tell them that I have to fix his orthotics. I have to make sure that they fit right, that they're aligned the right way, and make sure the straps are tightened. He can't do that independently. He needs my assistance. So if your child needs assistance, this is what's important when you're doing these assessments. As the principal in 37 likes to say, this is not the time to take out that brag book to talk about how wonderful our children are, because don't get us wrong, our children are wonderful. But when you're doing your assessments to get OPWDD services or any services, they want to know the real deal on what support your children need. And if you have to say yes, but, it should be no. This is my experience. As you can tell by the wrinkles around my face, I've been doing this quite some time. An individual does not need to be enrolled in Medicaid waiver or have Medicaid to access most family support services. If they are enrolled in OPWDD waiver services, they can receive different services through OPWDD, the waiver respite programs, home modifications, that's done through ADAPT, parent training, some clinical services. Some families can get additional OT or PT services at home in addition to your mandated IEP services. Again, you do not need to be enrolled. Or NYSID provides the services who do not have Medicaid. We can do the crisis management. We do evaluations for individuals who do not have Medicaid who are trying to get OPWDD services. Because I was like, okay, where do I get the evaluations from? OPWDD will give you a list, or Care Coordination will give you a list. AHRC is on there, YAI is on there. You can go to QSAC. You know, there are many, many places that you can access it. If you do not have Medicaid, or if you do have Medicaid. So there are two different lists. Some agencies like NYSID has a contract to provide the services for individuals who do not have Medicaid. So we could do those free evaluations. We can help send you the reports to help with the establishment of OPWDD eligibility. And OPWDD eligibility can take 3 to 6 months. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. And I tell families to please, it's worth the process. If you start now, see what you need, and as your children get older, it rolls over into day services, employment services, individuals who live either in a residence or live independently with the support, even that self-direction that everybody likes to talk about. And, so these are some of the things. So you do not need that. Does anybody have any questions about this? I have the link on this PowerPoint, and I did share it. Christy, you can absolutely share the PowerPoint. I have, I'm all about share, that's fair.
Okay.
We put it out there. So there's the link there that explains what family support services are as per OPWDD. That's right to their link. But in order for a family to get OPWDD family support services, they must be deemed eligible and live at home with a non-paid family member or caregiver. So even if they live with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever that's the family unit that they reside with, they can have receive OPWDD eligibility. And there are the different programs, whether if they have Medicaid waiver or don't have Medicaid. Either way, you can receive. As long as you have eligibility, you could receive the family support services. In each borough, there is a developmental disabilities council. I encourage you all, whichever county you reside in, to please reach out to them. See what information they have. Just like this District 75 Citywide Council has information and presenters, and this is a wonderful resource. When my son was younger, we did not have internet, we did not have Facebook, we did not have any other ways other than going to these meetings and going through my local council. I was able to get a lot of information that provided my son with a lot of supports. So here are the contact information in each county. They have monthly meetings. They set up different agendas to see where the needs are. In each county, there's also a family support advisory council that really talks about what the family support services are, the monies that are allocated, what are the priorities. There's recently been a conversation about a priority, a new request for proposal. They call them the RFPs for different services, that there are funds available for agencies to tap in. What do you need at home as family members? Here we are on a 4-day weekend. Many of our families are like, oh my God, I have 4 days. What am I doing? What are we doing? How are we doing this? This can be wonderful information for you to tap into. Now, family support services is a full gamut. You have services that don't require Medicaid or Medicaid waiver. You do have services that have Medicaid waiver. A lot of the family support respite programs many, many years ago were transitioned into a Medicaid waiver program. So right now, families who are getting family support OPWDD eligibility, their ages 3 to 8, the state is telling them, well, go access your family support services. What's really disappointing is that most of the programs downstate in the 5 boroughs were waiverized many years ago. So families, because they're not getting enrolled in the waiver right away, and they're being told to use family support services to get the respite and all that, there's minimal opportunities for that. So attached here is a list, and I believe the Brooklyn Council has this as a link. I think they had all the guides, but every borough has their own guide of supports and services that's provided with family support. So I encourage you to check your family support guide within your county and see. Now, if you have any questions and you don't know who to contact, every county has a family support coordinator. They call them, they're in the Developmental Disability Regional Office, the DDROs. I don't know if you've heard that term or if not heard that term. These are the contacts. So when you're looking to get information, or if you have a question about something that's related to family support in your borough, these are the people that you could reach out to. This is public information. I'm not sharing any state secrets. This is on the websites. And every single one of these individuals, these ladies, are extremely helpful. They're knowledgeable. If they don't have the answers, they try to help you get the answers, just to know what's in your county that you could access. So that you can call up, Crystal in the Bronx and say, Crystal, I'm trying to find out, how do I get, a respite program? She may tell you what she knows, who she has available, who has current contracts, or she can, and she'll defer you a good chance to the Disability Council or the Family Support Advisory Council, because they're in the know. But these are your state representatives that you can reach out to for questions. So I wanted to make sure that you all had that information. You'll notice Janet Davis is in Manhattan and Staten Island, so now she's got both those counties. And they are extremely kind to get information for you. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you that information as well. Just a quick, but before I go on, did anybody have any questions or anything? Did I, go too fast for anybody? Did I unclear on something? Because I really want to make sure that as we move along, I don't have people like scratching their heads saying, what'd she say? What? Huh? That doesn't make sense.
Jackie, we do have one question in the chat. It says, what is reimbursable for FSS, for family support services, and what isn't allowed?
Okay, Christy sent you that list. It's an allowable, non-allowable list. If you want to put that into the chat.
We actually do have the FSS ADM.
Not the ADM, it's
the allowable and non-allowable. It is, right. I can repost it again. Yes.
Okay. Now that particular, the list, it started in March of 2021. And what had happened, it's evolved, like March 2021 or 2022, March 2022. And it's evolved. The most recent update has been as of June 10th, 2024. That's what you have there. They have there's 3 pages. There's 1 page of allowable, and there's 2 pages of non-allowable. Now, what was once allowable, furniture, different things like that, are no longer allowable. The state is very, very clear on the documentation that needs to be in place so that you can get what's there. It's about what costs are being incurred because your child has a developmental disability. it's not, well, you're entitled to these it's a $3,000 max for reimbursement per fiscal year. It's not that you're, oh, good, I get $3,000. I can, just get my kid clothes because they outgrew them. Well, if your kid didn't have a disability and they outgrew them, you'd have to buy your kid clothes. And that's the reality. However, if you have to buy your child clothes, I have a son with cerebral palsy. When he feeds himself, he's got food all over him. And just yesterday I picked him up. He had his lunch all over him. He's 31. He's not wearing a bib, but we're trying to work on hand coordination. His clothes have to be washed frequently. I have to constantly buy him shirts. This is an expense that I've incurred because my son has a developmental disability. The point of reimbursement is that you get reimbursed for expenses that you've incurred as a result of your child's developmental disability. I mean, it could include classes like karate, swimming, dance, so that because if you have a child who needs assistance with those gross motor and fine motor skills, or if you have a child that needs to socialize, because the socialization is a big piece of what the developmental disability diagnosis is. So just keep in mind that the state isn't just going to say, sure, here's money, here's state dollars because, your kid has a disability. What they're saying is that because your child has a disability, you've incurred these charges, we want to help you. But we need to know why, we need to know how, and we need to document that because these are state dollars. So the list includes, different things. They've just brought back noise canceling ear coverings, the headphones. 3 months ago, they were not allowable. Now, as of June, online, now it's 6, okay. 10 months ago, they were not allowable. I forget that we're in October already. In June, it became allowable. So these are going to be constantly updated. The paperwork that I gave, I have a link to the family support services that you can access all of this information as well. It is public knowledge. I hope that answers the question about the allowable and non-allowable. And I'm going to just go on to what NYSID offers. Our free home evaluation, in-home evaluations are done in the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. We cannot provide the evaluations in Manhattan. Our contract does not include Manhattan. We do crisis management services. We can do that in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. We cannot do that in Manhattan or Staten Island. Again, our contract does not cover that. Reimbursement can be done in all 5 boroughs. It could be reimbursement for goods and services. It could be reimbursement for respite services, and it could be reimbursement for camp services. And I have documentation that we can share how that breaks down on what documents are needed as well. We can do our recreation outings tickets. This is such a fun thing that we have, and it's unique to NYSID as part of the family support services. When the state is telling families who have just provisional eligibility, they do not have Medicaid waiver, they're telling you to access family support services for respite or something. This is one of the few things that we can give you that many agencies don't. We have sports and recreation tickets, and our sports and recreation tickets, I also included that document with Christy to submit of the choice of venues. We get tickets to certain venues, the Bronx Zoo, the Intrepid, actually they just got that new plane, so that should be kind of exciting soon in March that you can go to. Museum of Natural History, the Wax Museum, different Prospect Park Zoo, Queens Zoo, different events, like we have season tickets to Brooklyn Nets, Brooklyn Cyclones. These are services that we can offer in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Unfortunately, we cannot provide that in Manhattan. This is also something that if you need, it's going to roll into, we can provide transportation to and from the venue at no cost to you or your family to go. So please keep in mind that it is Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island that we can provide these tickets. Your individual cannot have self-direction for this service because self-direction, Families have funds available to do different things, whereas families who do more traditional services or just basic services, they don't. So NYSID does not offer self-direction services for crisis, recreation, or transportation. If you have self-direction, we can help you with the reimbursement, and we can get into that later. Our transportation services are also available for individuals who reside in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Staten Island. They can take you to medical appointments in Manhattan. So my son goes to NYU Dental. To get to the city, to park, it's an expensive day. When he lived at home, I was able to access these services. Transportation would bring us door to door. I didn't have to think twice about where I was going to park. They dropped us off right in front. They came back when our appointment was over. It's no cost. So these are transportation services that NYSID offers in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. If you live in Queens and we give you tickets, we can provide you transportation to and from that particular venue. But that's the only time we can provide transportation in Queens. We cannot do it in Manhattan either. So in Manhattan, we can only do reimbursement for goods and services. And these are contracts that have been set up for years that are in place, and we just go forward with that. Does anybody have any questions about the NYSID services that are available?
Checking the chat for you now. While I check the chat, can we check in with our Mandarin and Spanish interpreters to see if we have any questions on that side? And please do refer to the chat as Mr. Pody moves through each guide and resources. I am sending the companion PDF with it. Please don't feel overwhelmed. This is just access to read along or to have with you now. We will also make sure all of these items are emailed out and are accessible to you. Spanish and Mandarin, do we have any questions on your lines?
There are no questions in the Spanish line at this time.
Okay, we have no questions in the chat. Do we have any questions on the Mandarin line?
No question for the Mandarin line also.
Okay, Jackie, you have the floor. You may continue.
Thank you so much. I've included some resource links that I know when you have a moment, I'm going to have you review them. There is the OPWDD main website. That'll give you, you're going to get blasted with information. The front door, that's something that's needed. It's not mandated anymore. They encourage you to see the front door videos. And I would recommend that it's something worth looking at so that you can get an idea of what services OPWDD has to offer your child once they have eligibility. Again, the family support service link to give you a little bit of a background about it. The guidelines for OPWDD reimbursement. This was the new administrative memo that came out that really changed the dynamic of reimbursement. So many families may have been like, oh, I used to be able to put in for clothes every year and I'd get back, and now I have to do justifications and I have to do all of this. So just understand these are the guidelines. There's information about respite services. So if you have overnight respite or you need overnight respite, my son used to go to AHRC's overnight respite. That's how we started to transition him to go live independently and live in a residence. And it was very helpful for him and myself. I'm not sure if their respites are still in place. You might want to just check the family support guide or contact the different agencies. But there are programs that are available to help you. So some families, if God forbid there's a hospitalization for somebody who lives at home, and we need to make sure that our loved one will care for, but there's no one there. There are these types of services. There's crisis prevention services that if the family is in crisis, and some children have a hard time coping and dealing with things, and the word behavior comes up a lot. These are different resources. One of the other ones, Parents Parent New York State has a family support contract that provides support to families. They have many support groups. They have actually a Chinese speaking support group. They have a dad support group. They have a support group for individuals considering residency. They have a support group for individuals who have children who are teenagers. This is a network of information that really can be very helpful. When my son was younger, parent to parent, I was able to speak to another mom who had a child with cerebral palsy, and she was able to really help me through a very difficult time when I was trying to cope with my son needing all this equipment. When am I going to put this equipment in the house? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And it really just gave me something. And I need to share it with you because they are such a resource of information, and there's so many compassionate people. They match you with a parent who has an individual who has similar disabilities or maybe something that you're going through. They have different networking information and presentations. So, these links I'd like to make sure that you have so that this way, when you have the time, not that many families do, but usually it's like at 1 o'clock in the morning when you finally quiet and you're like, what do I need to do? These could be hopefully some helpful links to you. So I have our frequently asked questions because I know I've been on enough of these Zooms that people, they know the questions, but they don't know the questions. Should I ask this question? I don't know. So I put it out there for you. One of the first things that comes up is that people want to know, how long does the reimbursement process take? Well, that depends upon the agency that's receiving the required documentation. When you're doing a reimbursement, you need to have all of the documentation that an agency is requiring to do so. I did include NYSID requirements, and these are the same things for most agencies. Most importantly, you're going to need the OPWDD application filled out. For NYSID, we ask you to fill out the NYSID reimbursement request form because that answers questions that we have to answer to the state. It needs to have a justification. Whether or not, if it's clothing or sensory items, you may need a clinical justification. So that justification needs to be in place. You need the finalized individual life plan that includes why that individual is looking for reimbursement. How is it related to the disability? Is the program that you're choosing, whether it be NYSID, HRC, AVSP, whomever is providing that reimbursement for you, ADAPT, are they listed in the life plan? I sent that checklist as well. That's something that we can add to the chat. We need the receipts that are dated within the current fiscal year. That has to be part of the packet. So all that said and done, once an agency has all the required documents, they then meet with a committee, a family support advisory, that family support committee that reviews all the applications. That meeting has to be scheduled. The information has to be entered upon a tracker that has to be then submitted to the state. The state then has to review it. I can tell you from personal experience, it could take 6 to 12 weeks. Or if everything, and then, if the ducks are all lined up and, all the stars and moon are aligned, it could happen within 4 weeks. But you need to make sure. So the process for reimbursement can take some time or it can be quickly depending upon the information that's submitted to each agency. Families ask, can I apply for reimbursement more than once? The answer is yes. You can apply for as many times as needed within a current fiscal year, as long as you don't go beyond the maximum $3,000 that's allowed per fiscal year. We are recommending that you try to stick with one agency and not shop around for every, I'm going to go to ADAPT, I'm going to go to NYSID, I'm going to submit all these, because the state has to make sure what you're getting. So if they have to check every agency, then that's going to prolong the reimbursement. What is the fiscal year? Downstate, within the 5 boroughs, our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. So, for example, this year, it's July 1st, 2024 to July 2025, June 2025, I misspoke. That's our fiscal year. All the receipts must be dated within the current fiscal year, preferably within 90 days of the purchase, so that we can provide the reimbursement. And then they ask, can I be reimbursed for a purchase I made last fiscal year? I'll tell you, this is the hardest part because families make purchases on June 30th or June 28th. And then they figure, okay, I'll put the application in. July 1st started a new fiscal year. we would not be able to do that reimbursement. And so that, when you get close to the end of June, July, that's where it's a fuzzy line for some families to not understand. Like, well, I have until June 30th. The state, agency has to process the application. It has to get in. So it's truly, you want to get your applications in prior to, at least by June 15th, in order to get that process within June 30th. Because remember when I said about eligibility, opportunity, and funding, if by the end of the fiscal year an agency no longer has that funding available, you're not going to get the reimbursement. So just for that to keep in mind, is there an appeals process for a denied application? Because we have applications that have been submitted that have been denied. And yes, there is. You can appeal with the contacting the family support coordinator in your borough. I sent you that information. Absolutely, you can do that. People ask, is there a maximum per family? What if there are multiple individuals in the household with OPWDD eligibility? The maximum amount is per individual, not per family. So I have a friend who has twins, and both of them have OPWDD eligibility. They could apply for each individual. It's not per household. It's not per family. It's per individual. That's what the maximum is, $3,000. Can I apply for FSS reimbursement if I have self-direction? Yes, you can, as long as your budget indicates an FSS agency as a direct provider purchase and it's an approved budget. No, if the individual is over 18 and requesting for clothing reimbursement. And I say that because for individuals who are over 18 in their budgets, there could be an allocation for reimbursement for funding for clothing. So the state will not approve a reimbursement submitted to FSS for that. Can I apply for tickets and transportation if I have self-direction? No, NYSID does not provide tickets or transportation to individuals that have self-direction. And the same applies for the crisis management for NYSID. NYSID cannot provide the reimbursement, the crisis management service if you have self-direction. However, other agencies may have the opportunity that they could do that. So you would check, I would refer you to your family support advisory guide to see who could do that. So those are the frequently asked questions in case nobody wanted to come up with, putting it in the chat. I wanted to try and be helpful with that. I have all of the contact.
We do have a couple in the chat. Do you want me to give you those questions really quickly?
Please, yeah, if you don't mind, absolutely.
Okay, I did see one person ask, and this will bring us back a little bit. They had stepped out for a moment. Does NYSID serve outings for Manhattan residents?
No, we cannot.
Okay.
No, we cannot. Manhattan, well, that's not in our contract, unfortunately.
Okay. The next question is reimbursement. Is reimbursement done calendar year, January to December, or fiscal year, July to June?
It's our fiscal year. It's July 1st to June 30th. That's within the 5 boroughs. If you live in Long Island or in any of the other Westchester County, upstate New York, they are January to December. But the 5 boroughs, the fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th.
And the last comment, it said today they will not provide code 95. I think when you were speaking about exceptions or things of that nature, Maziel Jaquez said, good morning, today they will not provide code 95. Would you be able to say more about that?
I don't know code 95 if that's a Medicaid.
It says code 95 is a restriction and exceptions code that identifies Medicaid members under the age of 21 for dental procedures and things of that nature.
Okay. For what? Provide? Are you looking?
Mr.
I'm not clear on what the question.
I don't think I am either. Let's let Miss Maciel, would you like to come off of mute to ask your question or to give a little bit more depth about the code 95 not being provided?
That's irrelevant to Medicaid. Now keep in mind, Family Support Services is not a Medicaid program.
I do not see them coming offline. We can try to circle back.
Okay, yeah,
To-
just so that I have clarity, so that I can address it to make sure that we understand, because we don't have, family support services is not a Medicaid program. So anybody's Medicaid status truly is not relevant to what we provide.
Okay. Mr. Jaquez, are you asking to unmute? If you're unable to unmute, please let me know in the chat. Jackie, I do not see any further questions on the chat.
Okay. I did have our contact information. I think I have that still there. Is that still on the screen? I don't know if it's still there.
Yes, it's still on the screen.
Okay, so this is the contact information for anybody for the services that NYSID does provide. For if you had questions, contact that individual directly. So, so that my child can see. They're asking for OPWDD. I don't quite understand that, and I'm sorry if I don't.
Oh, I guess she needs to figure out where she gets that code 95 from.
But code 95, and is that a Medicaid code? Because
It is a Medicaid code. It is a Medicaid code.
Right. So you could, I don't know if she's working with the care coordination organization, that they could help with that type of that question. And that's just for OPW. I'm going to make an assumption that's for OPWDD Medicaid waiver enrollment, not eligibility. Eligibility has nothing to do with an individual's Medicaid status. It's their child's eligibility to receive OPWDD services. I have on our last page, who do you contact for crisis management at NYSID? That would be Juliet Hawkins. If it's request for evaluations, Elizabeth Sunshine. Reimbursement would be myself. My cell phone number is there as well. Sports and recreation tickets, my colleague Sarah Alton. She helps with all of that. And transportation services, our transportation coordinator, John Brady. So these are who you can contact, and we will be more than happy to help you however we can, and just go from there. And does anybody else have any other questions? Was there something that I missed that maybe somebody else said? That code 95 is important because that's going to be if they're looking to enroll in Medicaid waiver and to get OPWDD Medicaid waiver services. So that's absolutely important. That's something that I would take to their CCO. They're working with the CCO and have them assist them with that. But as I said, eligibility for OPWDD services, it's not based on an individual's ability to obtain Medicaid or not. It's if their individual is deemed eligible for those services.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jackie. This has been extremely amazing information. I'm going to go back and rewatch this for myself, just to make sure we can pull up and capture a lot of this stuff, to have it on our website and to make sure it's accessible to the people who were here and those who were not. There was a person who asked in the chat, would this be available? It's actually live streaming on YouTube right now, so it's available right now. We are also going to edit it and move it to a Zoom, so it's living on our website as well. But if you do want to grab this entire recording, it is currently available. The link is in the chat. I can put it there again. As always, we do encourage you to follow the council at CCD 75 Outreach on YouTube. So if you ever miss something, you never miss something. From our workshops to our meetings, we want to make sure that we keep the community tied in. With that being said, I want to thank every one of you for coming to this, to be able to be informed. And Jackie, thank you for your wealth of knowledge and your willingness. We will make sure to get the PowerPoints out. All of the additional information that Jackie has given will be sent out, as we mentioned before. With that being said, do we have any additional questions? Stephen did say, thank you for such a great presentation. And I hope that we send this information. Yes, we will absolutely send this to our D75 representatives. Thank you for bringing that up, Stephen. I will make sure that all of this is packaged and sent out to them. That is very important that we make sure our reps on every community education council has this information as well for the community.
And
Go
to
ahead.
also just be clear, OPWDD eligibility and services is for all individuals with developmental and disabilities. So if your child's in your local community school and still receives it, so you're, like you said, I'm glad you mentioned the other CECs, because that's something that a lot of families in those schools don't realize that these are access. They don't have the resources that you will do through District 75. Individuals with developmental and disabilities.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I was adding a link. It double talked over you. My apologies. Did you want to say that last line over?
No, just that other families whose children have developmental disabilities in the local school districts, many families are unaware. They're caught up in your general education classroom, your general education school, not a District 75 school, and they don't realize. And then as they get older, they go, wait, I didn't even know that was available. So I applaud you for looking to share it with your other CEC cohorts, so that this way they understand these are services families can apply for, get the opportunity to access and utilize. Family support services, I'm going to be very candid with my own son. By having him attend the family support respite camp, he went to camp, he went away to sleepaway camp, and it helped with the transition as he became a young adult to move into a residence that he's now living his life. And he kicks me out of his room and he's like, bye, mommy. And okay, fine, knife in my heart. But he's living his life as is his twin sister. So these services truly, they're for helping keeping your individual living at home with you for as long as you can possibly have them home with you, because that's what you want. To having them grow and explore other opportunities beyond family support services, because you'll see by going on that OPWDD website, there are other services. They have supported employment, pathway to employment, independent living, housing subsidies. They really do have the world for them. You just need to know how to access it.
Thank you, Jackie. While we've checked in on the chat, I want to check in one more time with our interpreters. Are there any questions in the Mandarin and or Spanish chat room?
Not on the Mandarin line. No question in the Spanish line.
All right. With that being said, I do not see any additional questions in the chat, but as always, you do have the information from Jackie and our council's information if you do need something further, d75council@schools.nyc.gov. And I do want to not be remiss and give our Vice President, Ms. Montalban, a chance to speak if she's still in the chat room.
I'm here. Hi.
Yes.
I just want to thank Jackie, as always. So much information, so wonderful. I'm so glad that I have the pleasure of having Jackie in my school, so I see her every day. But I'm so happy when we get to share her with the whole district like this, because she is truly such a wonderful person and helps so many families. So thank you, Jackie.
And yes, thank you, Christy, for introducing us to Jackie, because you are golden and we're keeping you. With that being said, just double checking, I don't think we have any additional questions. So what we're going to do at this point is free our interpreters at 11:58 a.m. And this recording will be live and active on YouTube, and we will shortly send out all of the different information and resources that Ms. Tripodi gave us. And again, thank you guys, and have a great, great day on purpose.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate sharing it.